In the fading twilight of the 19th century, the world stood at the edge of transformation. Old empires trembled, and new powers emerged from across the seas. For over 3 centuries, the Philippines had endured under the rule of Spain. But revolution was already burning. In 1896, a movement ignited, led by dreamers, fighters, and patriots. Among them rose a determined leader, Emilio Aguinaldo. The Filipino people fought, not just for reform, but for freedom. But destiny had other plans. A false dawn of freedom. In 1898, war erupted between Spain and the rising power of the United States in what became the Spanish-American War. Far from Europe, in the waters of Manila Bay, American forces destroyed the Spanish fleet. Filipinos believed liberation had arrived. On June 12, 1898, under the blazing sun in Cali, Aguinaldo declared independence. A new republic was born, the first Philippine Republic. But behind closed doors, across oceans, a different future was being written. In the Treaty of Paris, Spain sold the Philippines to the United States for $20 million. The revolution had not ended. It had only begun again. Allies turned enemies. Tensions simmered between Filipino revolutionaries and American troops stationed in Manila. Then, on February 4th, 1899, a single gunshot shattered the fragile peace. An American sentry fired on a Filipino soldier. Bar erupted. The Philippine-American War had begun. What followed was brutal and relentless. American forces, better armed and trained, launched massive offensives. Filipino fighters, driven by patriotism, resisted fiercely. Battles raged across the islands. Fields burned, cities trembled, and thousands fell. The struggle for survival. At first, Filipino forces fought in conventional battles. But as losses mounted, Aguinaldo shifted strategy. The war transformed into guerrilla warfare. In jungles, mountains, and villages, Filipino fighters struck swiftly, then vanished into the shadows. The war became unpredictable and merciless. American forces responded with harsh tactics, reconcentration zones, scorched earth policies, and brutal reprisals. Entire communities suffered. This was no longer just a war between armies. It was a war that consumed a nation. Capture and collapse. In 1901, a turning point came. Through deception and strategy, American forces captured Emilio Aguinaldo in the remote town of Palawan. The revolutionary leader swore allegiance to the United States. The republic began to crumble, but resistance did not vanish overnight. Other leaders continued to fight, holding onto the fading hope of independence. The war without mercy. In provinces like Samar and Batangas, the war reached its darkest chapters. American General Jacob H. Smith ordered Samar to be turned into a howling wilderness. Villages were destroyed. Civilians were caught in the crossfire. Historians estimate that hundreds of thousands of Filipinos died, not only from combat, but from famine and disease. The cost of empire was written in blood. The silencing of a nation. By 1902, the United States declared the war officially over. But scattered resistance continued for years. The Philippines was now under American rule. A new era began, marked by infrastructure, education, and governance reforms, but shadowed by the memory of war. The dream of independence had been delayed, but not destroyed. Legacy of resistance. The Philippine-American War remains one of the most overlooked conflicts in global history. Yet its legacy echoes through time. It was a war of ideals, freedom versus empire, A war where a young nation stood against a rising superpower. And though the Filipinos did not win their independence in that moment, their spirit endured. Decades later, that same spirit would rise again until freedom was finally achieved. History remembers the victors, but it is the courage of those who resist that shapes the soul of a nation. Don't let our history fade away. Subscribe and be part of keeping our stories alive.